right now, you're probably warm. In fact, you probably don't even notice it. Somewhere on a wall in your home, there's a little dial, and the second the air dips below a certain point, a machine clicks on and literally solves the problem before your body even has a chance to complain. You walk from a heated house into a heated car and then into a heated building. The coldest moment of your entire day, it's probably just a few seconds it takes to cross the pavement between them. But in this explainer, we're going to look back at a time when winter was entirely different. We're going to look at the ancient reality, a time when winter wasn't just a season, it was a brutal force built to end human life.
I mean, really think about it. For you and me, winter is just a minor hassle, right? It's scraping a frustrating layer of frost off your windshield. It's grabbing a slightly thicker coat before you head out the door. It's grumbling because the sun goes down way too early in December. But for nearly all of human history, winter was the ultimate test. It was the terrifying reality of freezing and starving, without furnaces, without 24/7 grocery stores, and without proper walls that actually kept the freezing wind out. Okay, let's dive right into this. Winter never attacked our ancestors from just one angle. Oh no, it came at them from 4 distinct directions at once: the cold, the night, the hunger, and the darkness. And here was the absolute unforgiving rule of the ancient winter. If you beat 3 of these threats, but failed to beat the 4th, you died. You literally had to conquer all 4 just to see the spring. Let's start with threat number 1, the cold. Or, as I like to think of it, being a tropical machine in an ice age.
You see, the human body is effectively a tropical machine. We evolved in the warm stretches of Africa. Left alone and unprotected, a human loses body heat incredibly fast in freezing conditions. We're talking hypothermia setting in within just a matter of hours. Your fingers seize up, your thoughts start to slow to a crawl, and eventually everything just shuts down. We have no claws, no thick coat of fur, no built-in blubber or insulation. We are practically the worst-designed large animals on Earth for enduring an ice age, and yet humans march directly into it. So how did we survive? Well, the first answer everyone jumps to is fire. And sure, fire is great, but it has a massive flaw. It only heats the side of you facing it, and it doesn't travel with you. The instant you step away from those flames to hunt or gather more wood, the cold rushes straight back in. So the real survival leap wasn't just fire, it was moving from a simple, draped animal pelt to fitted, sewn clothing. A raw hide just slung over your back leaves openings everywhere. The wind slips in. It falls off when you move. It's simply not enough.
What ancient people really needed was this: fitted, sewn clothing. Garments constructed with closed seams and fitted sleeves. This was an absolute game changer, a massive technological leap. By actually cutting hides into sections and stitching them back together into shapes built to match the human body, they created a private bubble of warmth. It was a garment that sealed a pocket of warm air directly against the skin and held it there no matter how much they moved around. With the fur facing inward, a human being could suddenly stand in air cold enough to kill and remain perfectly alive.
And this brilliantly illustrates the specific breakthrough our ancestors needed to make that happen. Over 40,000 years ago, humans invented the precision bone needle. Now, these weren't just crude accidents. Someone actually took a splinter of bone, ground it down to a fine point, and bored a tiny eye right through it. An eye delicate enough for thread, but sturdy enough not to shatter. Using animal sinew as thread, this tiny piece of technology allowed our ancestors to sew those life-saving hides together. I mean, take away the needle and the thread, and there was no human population surviving an ice age, period.
Moving on to threat number 2, the night, and engineering against the freezing wind. Now, to survive the night, you obviously need shelter. But contrary to popular belief, good, dry, defensible caves were actually incredibly scarce. You couldn't just find a home out there. You had to engineer it. Now, what's really interesting about these 15,000-year-old dwellings found in modern-day Ukraine is the sheer ingenuity. The surrounding landscape back then had almost no timber and almost no stone. So, lacking basic building materials, ancient people engineered incredible dome-shaped homes out of the one thing they had in massive supply: mammoth bones. Seriously, they interlocked hundreds of mammoth bones and tusks, using jawbones layered almost like shingles, with enormous tusks arched right over the entryways. These were serious, highly engineered structures built to hold firm through a merciless winter. But, as you can imagine, bone doesn't exactly fit together seamlessly, right? Gaps mean open doors for the deadly wind. So they developed a brilliant 3-step system to seal these drafty structures. First, they stretched animal hides across the interior walls. Second, they cut and stacked blocks of turf against the outer walls. And third, they packed thick layers of snow up against the shelters as insulation. Now, that might sound crazy, but snow is actually an excellent insulator. It traps pockets of air, and that trapped air literally holds the heat in. Bit by bit, the wind just ran out of places to sneak through.
And you know, the urge to make these shelters comfortable is deeply, deeply ancient. It didn't just start during the Ice Age. Researchers have found evidence in South Africa of layered grass and leaf bedding arranged with incredible care, dating back a staggering 77,000 years. So long before we even left Africa, we were already arranging our personal spaces to be cozy, kind of like how you might arrange blankets on your couch today.
Let's move to the third threat and see how this all builds on itself. Threat number 3, the hunger and the arithmetic of survival.
Here's a catch. A warm, heavily built shelter means you are tied to one spot, and that introduces a fresh problem when the Earth literally quits producing food outside. Plants die back, berries vanish, and the frozen soil makes roots impossible to dig out. Survival became pure arithmetic. You had to gather enough calories during the warm months to survive the months when absolutely nothing new arrives. To solve this math problem, our ancestors became absolute masters of food storage. They developed brilliant methods to stockpile their hard-earned calories. First, drying and smoking meat to pull the moisture out, which stops it from rotting. Next, they actually turned the freezing winter into a tool. They utilized permafrost pits, digging down into the ice to create natural freezers that kept meat edible for months. And finally, they focused on rendering dense animal fat for fuel. So the crucial point here is that lean meat alone is just not enough when your body is burning massive amounts of energy to maintain its core temperature. Rendered animal fat is the densest energy source available. Ancient humans mixed this highly stable, storable fat with dried meat to create a portable, calorie-packed ration. In the deep winter, having these stores of rendered fat was literally the ultimate difference between reaching the spring thaw or starving in the snow.
Okay, so you've beaten 3 threats, but threat number 4 attacks the mind, the darkness.
The further north you go, the more the days shrink. Imagine facing 15 to 16 hours of cold, enclosed darkness every single night. You're confined to a small space with the exact same few people. I mean, we all know how testing it is just being cooped up indoors for a rainy weekend, let alone an entire season. The psychological toll could easily break you in a way cold and hunger simply can't. But ancient humans didn't just sit in the dark and wait. They filled those 15 hours completely, turning the long night into a winter workshop. Sitting near the fire, they accomplished every task that didn't require bright daylight. They repaired tools, shaped fresh spear points, mended their vital clothing, and twisted plant fibers into cord. They transformed the endless dark into the essential time needed to prepare for the spring.
But it was so much more than just physical labor. Around that fire, the darkness actually became a classroom. There's this fascinating 2014 study by researcher Polly Weisner looking at the Zhuangzi people in the Kalahari. She found that once the sun went down and the fire was lit, talk shifted overwhelmingly away from practical, day-to-day matters and towards stories, song, and ritual. The elders passed down their knowledge. Myths were forged. People pressed together against the darkness, keeping each other warm, and honestly, keeping each other sane.
And that brings us to the resolution. Winter didn't just fail to wipe us out. When you pull back and look at the whole picture, it really shifts your entire paradigm. The crushing pressure of winter didn't just get survived, it actually shaped our species. It forced our ancestors to invent the very cornerstones of human dominance. The intense pressure of the cold, that forced the invention of fitted, sewn clothing. The scarcity of caves during the freezing night, that forced the invention of real architecture and engineering. The absolute hunger of winter directly forced the invention of food storage and preservation. And those long, seemingly endless hours of darkness created the very spaces where human culture, myths, and shared knowledge were born. Survival was never guaranteed. It was earned. Earned by 100,000 years of human beings freezing, starving, and using sheer stubbornness and ingenuity to invent their way out of the dark. So the next time you're inside a perfectly heated house, looking out at a December snowfall and feeling tempted to complain about the chill, just remember, you are only sitting in that warmth because your ancestors figured out how to conquer the cold. Will you ever look at a winter snowfall the same way again? Stay curious, and we'll see you in the next explainer.